So I'll tell you right now, I love new ideas. A lot of people are worried about this government, the ones who didn't vote for Trump, obviously. There's a lot of hysteria, all these crazy claims. We're going back to slavery. It's Nazi, it's dictatorship, all these things. But in real time, what's going on with this administration is that they're going to be doing something different that I don't think we've ever seen. And I think people are worried about it, particularly people who work in the government. I think some are shook because the goal of this D.O.G.E, the Department of Government Efficiency, is going in and they're trying to save the taxpayers' money.
The co-leader of that department, the Department of Government Efficiency, Vivek Ramaswamy, with me this morning. I want to get your take on how this begins.
Sure.
What are you looking to cut right from the beginning?
Look, we're not going to be cutting ribbons. We're going to be cutting costs. And so those recommendations are going to be on a real-time basis. But I do want to take a big step back and understand, for people to understand the scope of this problem. Over $500 billion that's spent every year right now was not even authorized by Congress in the first place. The Pentagon has just failed its seventh consecutive audit, nearly $1 trillion.
Government spending has been something that's been an issue on whatever party, Democrat and Republican. You know what I'm saying? There's always overspending. That goes on in almost every government, to be honest with you. But where America is at right now, we have some real problems, and mismanagement of funds is probably one of the biggest issues in our government. And I do like the fact that, this administration is going in early. They haven't even gotten office yet. They're planning as soon as they want to hit the ground running to really deal with where is the waste in the government. Let's evaluate it. Let's do an audit. Let's take a look. And they're already identifying certain agencies that may not need to be there or are swollen or bloated and need to be cut.
So I think part of this is exposing for the public the extent of that rot and waste, but then to take steps first through executive action and then laying the groundwork for broader change through legislation as well.
You're going to have pushback, not just from the left. You may have pushback from those very people who are running those departments, running those agencies. They want as many people as they want in there. You're going to want to fire people. Yeah. So how are you going to deal with that? You're also perhaps looking at pushback from Congress. How are you going to deal with Congress?
Politicians haven't been able to do it. And so Elon and I, we're not politicians. We're businessmen. We're coming at it from the outside. Sometimes if you go inside, you become native to the system. Let's start with the fact that there is massive waste, fraud, and abuse right now. Federal contractors are really exploiting the federal government. You could take haircuts across the board, and they would be no worse off for it. And it's not just about cutting cost, but increasing effectiveness from defense to healthcare.
I think people who are scared. The idea is that, if you cut the government, we need every part of the government, and we need all the people who do what they do. There's an assumption, and that's just almost like a child who fears a parent. We fear the people who are parenting over us, and they're not parenting over us. They're the government. They are employees. They are paid by tax dollars to do certain things. And they're essentially managers. They're managing the money of the country. When you hire people, you have to be able to have some level of oversight, and you also have to reevaluate whether the money's being spent correctly. I talked to some of my friends who did not vote for Donald Trump, and they're like, they're going to be slashing all these government jobs. People are going to lose their jobs and this and this and that. But look, it's the same thing in the private sector. In the private sector, if a company goes through their budget sheet and they go through what they brought in versus their expenditures, and they say, you know what, we have a lot of fat in this area, we need to cut.
And set an example for how our federal government should run.
I love that. But again, you are going to face pushback from within.
Sure.
And you are going to have to make this so compelling that you get the support, congressional support. So how do you do that?
Well, look, I think the public is on our side. Most of the public understands their taxpayer dollars are not being well spent. They want to hold these decision makers accountable, and they're not able to. These congressmen are responsive to the people. Many of them are quietly on our side as well. So I think the division of responsibilities, a lot of people who face two-year election cycles in political Congress, they end up looking at what's happening tomorrow. We're looking at the next 250 years. We want to give them credit for doing the right thing. Elon and I aren't in this for the credit, but I think we're going to build the consensus to make the kind of deep cuts that haven't been made for most of our history.
Are you expecting to close down entire agencies like President Trump has talked about the Department of Education, for example? Are you going to be closing down departments?
We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force in areas of the federal government that are bloated. We expect massive cuts among federal contractors and others who are overbilling the federal government. So, yes, we expect all of the above. And
that level of vision is something that we just haven't seen before. And I think it scares people because typically politicians don't talk like that. Vivek is a businessman. Obviously, Elon Musk is a businessman, and their mindset is totally different. These guys, you know what's interesting about, let's just take Donald Trump, Vivek, and Elon Musk. You know the thing about all three of these guys, they don't need money. There's no motive. I think the motive is really to transform America and do something different with America.
You've got people who have been career bureaucrats in place right now. Didn't President Biden put in plans to ensure that you're not going to be able to fire those people at all? How do you get around that? And, I asked Joni Ernst, are you for term limits? She says, yes, I am for term limits, as long as the people around me are also for term limits. Mm-hmm. That's not in place right now. So how do you get rid of those people who are dug in?
Well, a lot of what's happened is President Biden has made a lot of changes trying to entrench the administrative state. The Supreme Court has slapped them on the wrists numerous times. So we're working with a legal landscape here that is historic. You think about a president of the United States like Donald Trump, elected with the mandate he's been given, both chambers of Congress belonging to Republicans, a 6-3 conservative majority in the Supreme Court. Maria, if we don't downsize the federal government now, it's never going to happen in the future as well. So this is a historic opportunity. We're not actually going to squander this, but I think part of the key is to move quickly, to move effectively. I think that mass deregulation that I talked about earlier, that gives us the industrial logic to then make cuts to that bureaucracy, and moving quickly is our objective.
Have you thought about moving some of these departments or agencies out of Washington?
It's funny you bring up this point. Yes is the answer, but here's why. They'll say, well, what happens to the people who live in Washington, D.C.? Here's the dirty little secret in the federal bureaucracy today. Most people don't even show up to work. So if you require most of those federal bureaucrats to just say, like normal working Americans, you come to work 5 days a week, a lot of them won't want to do that. And by the way, that creates a logic for many of those agencies being outside of D.C. in the first place. So these are, again, examples. It's a great point you just brought up.
So would you
sweeping
move,
changes we're able to make quickly.
You could move the Energy Department to Texas or to Pennsylvania. You could move agriculture somewhere else. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, look, I think that, yes, absolutely. But I think even bigger picture than that, many of these agencies should be downsized wherever they are. And for whatever does remain, move many of them out to be where they're more accountable to the people. And by the way, if you have many voluntary reductions in force of the workforce in the federal government along the way, great.
When you have problems like we have in the country and things that need to be solved, and you have to start, and someone says, okay, we're going to start looking at what's being spent. Once you start looking at that, the people who are waste and are not needed, they're the hit dog that's going to holler. You know what I'm saying? And it is what it is. But effectively, that's what a government's supposed to be doing. They're not doing, to me, it blows my mind how people are so worried and, talking about how Project 2025 and all these things that they're worried about. These are the type of things, Vivek and Elon, these are the type of things we're going to see first. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, change is hard. Change is scary for a lot of people. But like I said, I'm optimistic and I'm not scared because I'm not someone living on the government dollar. I get mine the way I get mine. And if you're one of those people who are waste and you know it, then you're scared or you're mad. One of the two. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Crucial Convo. Let me know what you think about the Department of Government Efficiency. I'm actually excited about it, to be honest with you. So, peace.